Welcome to the day after Saturday. I'm your co-host Jackson Juze.
I'm Krish Gupta.
And today we have the best honor probably possible in Haverford to interview the 16th and sitting president of Haverford, President Wendy Raymond. We appreciate you for being here so much.
I'm glad to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, this is awesome. All right, well, let's get into it. I'm going to take Chris's mantra here and say the best place to start is the beginning.
All right.
So, you graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Cornell, got your graduate degree from Harvard, which, again, is probably one of the highest honors in molecular biology and in biochemistry. And I'm just curious how Haverford came into the picture. I mean, how you got here.
Well, you said you were going to start at the beginning, but wow. I
I
was
started at the
born and I
beginning,
had
okay.
siblings and I grew up and we'll
Okay.
start. No, that's good. So how did Haverford come into the picture? I ended up, even though I was a research scientist, as you said, from my graduate training, and then I did a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Washington, where I'm trained to become a research scientist.
Right.
I took my first job in a small liberal arts college, not unlike Haverford, at Williams College. And I spent 19 years there as a faculty member,
Wow,
very
long
happily.
time. Yeah.
Loved it. Like the reason that I'm in higher education, many reasons, but one is that I love 20-somethings. And our students are always 20-something and always trying to figure out what their paths are in life. And I loved being part of those journeys. And so my path to Haverford begins in the liberal arts college milieu, which I came from at Cornell, actually,
Right.
at a university. But I believe in the liberal arts and the changes that the liberal arts can bring to students who are figuring out themselves.
Right. Well, that's awesome. And I think just looking back on what you've done, to start your time at Haverford College, obviously you were thrown into the entire mess of COVID. And it's had so many changes. I mean, it's brought so many changes to the traditional educational system, long-term and short-term. But then I'd say, in my opinion at least, it's done more bad than good, just in terms of messing with the lack of resources in marginalized communities. I know there's a lot of statistics saying that people have, people have gone down in terms of reading levels and math levels on average, as student body or, not at Haverford, but per se, but overall in America. And then also just an increase in mental health challenges as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious what your thoughts on Haverford are post pandemic, and how you guys had to, I guess, combat the effects of COVID.
There's so much in that question, and
Yeah.
you laid out so much about that question around the world and around the United States in particular about
Right.
impacts, but I'll focus on your part of the question, which is Haverford. We do see so many impacts, and I would say the one that we're most focused on now is the set of social impacts on students in particular, but certainly all of us, about not having great muscles in gathering, not having great muscles in deciding to come together physically and have conversations, get to know one another physically, because we're accustomed to doing things on Zoom or
Yeah.
accustomed things to doing
Yeah.
things in texting and social media.
Oh man, yeah.
So that's a
so
huge
much.
challenge. But I would say where we have had incredible strengths grown around COVID is not unrelated to those challenges. Our faculty are super dedicated to their education of you
Right.
all, and that reciprocal exchange that creates discovery and creativity and brings you out of where you've been as high schoolers, and this will continue, right? The COVID impact will continue and continue and continue in different ways on different generations of children
Right.
who came through it. So our faculty have gained a lot of resilience and capacities around their teaching styles and their invitation to you to come in and learn. And that's certainly intersected with what you brought up, Jackson, about mental health concerns. There's an epidemic of anxiety and depression among young adults in the United States, and we deal with that here
Right.
in having fantastic resources in counseling and psychological services, as well as in our deans and all the kinds of ways we wrap ourselves around our community here for students and for all of us, because mental health concerns also around COVID impacted everybody.
Right. No, I definitely agree with the idea of just, again, one-on-one communication and in-person communication is completely, just changed. And, the way we, I guess, just have office hours online, things like that. And obviously, I feel like, we both went through high school pretty much completely through COVID, or at least the second half. So coming to Haverford, and then not maybe getting the traditional college experience is definitely something I talked about early on.
Yeah, I feel like when we got to Haverford, like the upperclassmen had gone through college in COVID, so it felt like they were freshmen again.
Right.
They were exploring all these things for the first time at the same time that we were, so that was something interesting.
Right.
Traditions got lost. Traditions at Haverford got lost. So whether they were team traditions that were done in person
Right.
or departmental traditions got lost. And like you're saying about the upperclassmen feeling like they were first years again, we've had a hard time regenerating some of those as a community.
Right.
No blame there. Those are things
Yeah,
that
yeah,
just
you just
happen.
have to have.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'd also say that, like, again, going back to this communication piece, people are so less anxious to like meet in person, and like there's like just I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sit right. You know what I mean? Just the way that you're not able to communicate with people super well, and like people lose just like communication skills. And like I feel like our class and maybe the classes coming in, you know, hopefully that's something they can learn at Haverford, like, or regain as, you know, as people who are growing up to be adults in the real world. Like we have to actually learn how to communicate with our bosses, be good team leaders. You know, how your individual skills are going to be able to affect team environments. Like all those things are really important. And I feel like, yeah, we got to get those back, but I'm sure we are.
This Meeting the Moment initiative that we have launched this year, this fall, of over 30 ways to get together around moments that our nation and our world face, include a lot of self-development initiatives, and people have been coming to those. It's just one example of how we in the senior staff have tried to have invitations to people to come together, but I'll be curious to learn from everyone, and I'm always
What an
asking
excellent
this question.
opportunity.
Yeah. What can we do differently to bring people together? Wow with Wendy is another example.
Wow with Wendy,
Trying to bring people
I was in
together.
the VCAM last time. That was going on in the back doing
Okay.
some work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, another big change to the landscape of traditional education has also been AI. And, you know, I definitely wanted to get your opinion on that, and just like whether this is something that you guys are trying to like work with and figure out if it's something that you guys can, I guess, find, you know, a balance with academic work. And, you know, sometimes people may say that there is, obviously there's some benefits in terms of like, I mean, finding information fast, but then obviously then there's the integrity. But I was also curious on, you know, what your thoughts are in terms of like the AI situation with the honor code as well. Like, you know, if this is something that you can just kind of put up to the honor code and say like, we trust students not to, you know, abuse AI.
We definitely trust students here at Haverford College. So
Obviously.
Right.
Yeah,
to get to your question though, in the context of artificial intelligence or whatever the world brings, that trust is something that I think needs to be unbroken at Haverford College when we're all in conversation about what does that look like. I don't know if you saw a recent Atlantic article, which is written by a Haverford alum, about ChatGPT and students in small liberal arts colleges and universities and how that's working. And at Haverford, we have the sense that it's working really well for and with students. That is, that faculty members are setting clear terms about what you can do with ChatGPT or any kind of artificial intelligence in your work, which might be you can't use it, to you're welcome to use it, just like on Haverford admission applications. Have you thought about that? Essay writing?
No.
Right, that students can use it, they just have to do it smartly.
Put it in.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think this is a reality.
Right.
ChatGPT, AI.
Yeah, it's something that's coming.
Yeah, and how are we going to use it smartly for the college? So the library here at Haverford, the libraries are taking the lead on working with students, providing resources on their website around how to do this smartly. They're doing that in collaboration with ITS and also the provost office. The provost office being in collaboration with faculty, so that we're all learning as we go along. You know that we have the beginnings of a new Institute for Ethical Inquiry and Leadership that will change we think the way others look at us, because it puts ethics right in the center of Haverford, as we know is.
Right.
We'll say that to the world more, and I think that will be a center where these kinds of questions are we continue to delve into these kinds of questions. And that center is led by 2 faculty members, one of whom is Sorrel Friedler in computer science, whose work is in the ethics of artificial intelligence and computer science more widely
Right.
thought about.
Chris, your presentation last semester in applied ethics on
Yeah,
AI,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
and that
stuff.
was,
Oh,
with
okay.
the other co-head, Jill Stoffer's the other co-head of that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And just to take that like a step further, I was curious, like, is there like a sort of guiding principle that the school is using as, like, at what's a good way to use AI like productively? Like, is there a sort of rule of thumb that you guys have been dealing with?
There is no rule that we're dealing with. I think smartly is the way to go. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's such a
No, I get it. I
It's
mean,
case by
that's
case, yeah.
that's also, I mean, the whole
Yeah.
point of the honor code, I feel like, is like you're just like, no, we just have that trust in our students. Like, you know what I mean?
right. And are we here to learn?
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
yes. And I don't think I think all students come here to learn, and that is really an amazing thing
Yeah.
about being at Haverford. Back to your first question to me, what was the journey to Haverford? I came to Haverford because of Haverford's values.
Right.
I've been at fantastic colleges and universities. I've been blessed my entire career and education. And Haverford is distinctive in this set of values that we aspire to live by. Do we live by them 100%? No. And we are always aspiring to live by them. And so I think when I say smartly too, it's, do we want to learn? Sure. Let's use ChatGPT to learn, and let's know enough that we know when ChatGPT is telling us garbage.
Right.
Which, if you've used it, you know that is going to
Feeds
happen.
a lot of garbage.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness! So I think we're in a good place to be able to handle all the changes that are coming our way.
Right. Well, before you say your next point, I interviewed the head lacrosse coach in September, and I'm just now saying that, he, again, one of the parts of the show was talking about how well of a motivational speaker he was, and now you're in competition just based off of that last speech.
Okay, all right, well, that's great. I love
Side by
that.
side.
Yeah, side by side comparisons, yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome, great job.
Awesome, yeah. I mean, staying on the topic of just changes to education, it's been like a little bit over a year now since you sent out that email to Haverford about the Supreme Court's rulings on affirmative action. And I was just curious how like 1 year in now, how are you guys navigating that? Because it's cool, like I was curious to see like how the numbers have changed, things like that, and it's remained pretty constant, which is impressive. So I'm just curious like how you guys are navigating that.
We were navigating that well before the Supreme Court decision, and the we there, I want to give a great shout out to the whole admission department, which includes a lot of students who are involved, and our head dean and VP for admission and financial aid, Jess Lord. So we, ahead of that decision, knowing that was coming through the Supreme Court, admission was changing its own internal operations around how it was evaluating, specifically how it was evaluating holistically our applications, so that this would not be like a change in our process, but a gradual change in the process. So they were really ready for that decision when it happened. And what do I mean by that? It just means that taking race and ethnicity out of the actual conversations, all of the conversations they were having around admission, and all of the ways in which we assess students was a relatively easy switch after the Supreme Court decision. The other part of it that's really important to think about is how we recruit students. So we thrive in having a diverse student body and having a diverse staff and a diverse faculty, because it brings such an important part of our intellectual and emotional and social development here to all of us. So the part about recruiting students is really key, and that is not something that the Supreme Court ruling said anything about. In fact, it said it's fine to be thinking about other aspects when you're recruiting. So our fly-in work, providing funding for students to fly in from all over the nation to check out Haverford College in the fall prior to their applying, is really robust. How are we also getting the word out about Haverford to all kinds of communities here in the United States and around the world? That's something we can pour funding and time and resources into without abrogating our legal responsibility to not take race or ethnicity into account during the admission process. So the results are so far so good, and we're always gonna, I knock on wood, it's really, as a scientist, ridiculous. But
I'm a follower, sorry.
just mostly to stay humble, like not to say I'm assuming things will continue really well, but
Right.
we just came through ED1, early decision 1, and that's looking
November
really good in
1st,
terms of applications and excitement about looking to the class of 2029.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I never thought about it that way, about just diverting the way you guys recruit rather than changing the way you admit people, and that's a way to kind of, I don't want to say get around, because
No, yeah,
it is,
I was
not getting around the lie. It's finding a way to build the student body that we want.
right.
Exactly.
I honestly, I'm curious though. I know we have, so much time. I have 20 minutes till class, but it's okay. I'm just curious. Like, I mean, obviously, I feel like we're going through so many like political and I guess human rights setbacks right now in the country, and I'm just curious, like, when you're going to be looking at all of these issues in terms of how this could potentially affect Haverford. Obviously, the Department of Education is now like, I mean, we don't know where that's going to be in 3 months, and I'm just curious, like, other aspects of education, like, how do you feel like you're going to approach, I guess, just anything that could potentially harm the I guess diversity, equity, and inclusion of Haverford in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel very confident about Haverford. We
Yeah.
have our values and our mission, and we are absolutely dedicated to those values and that mission.
Yeah.
So, in terms of all kinds of things that you're alluding to, but also saying, we are concerned about our international students and
Yeah.
their capacities to get visas, and the ways a future administration might slow that process down, as happened in the past.
Right.
So we have a strong set of supports for our international students. We have undocumented students and DACA students, and we have our arms around them and around making sure that they will thrive at Haverford, and there's just every guarantee for that and of that at Haverford College. What about LGBTQ students? What about all of us around the Department of Education? I am not
Right.
worried about the Department of Education, by the way you bring that up specifically. That's the threat or the I don't know, remark that
Yeah.
President-elect Trump would like to get rid of the Department of Education, I think means get rid of bureaucracy. And
Yeah.
it certainly won't mean getting rid of Pell Grants. It won't mean getting rid of grants that other kinds of grants and support for students. And if it does, let's say worst case scenario, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We will take up that slack. We
Yeah.
will pay out of Haverford College's finances for that financial aid to make
man.
up for
Yeah.
what is lost by the federal government.
And it's really scary. I think, like, I had a study abroad orientation a couple weeks ago, and one of the slides was, if Trump is elected, international students, you have to watch out for your, like, if you're going to be able to get back into the country. And that's just something that you don't think about, but the election really can impact Haverford students in, like, very, very close ways.
Particularly from certain countries.
Yeah.
And we experience that also through COVID in different ways as well. So we do have muscles built around how to support people around it. And it is, that would be really, really hard. We hear that. I hear that. And we want to just be sure that, like with that presentation, we're supporting students with knowledge, but also more support about how to navigate it.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, and pivoting a little bit just into, I think one of the things that's the most difficult for college presidents to navigate is just, I mean, without going into any specifics, because I know, like, there's obviously a lot of topics here, but how do you approach dealing with sort of political issues on campus, and what are the sort of stakeholders you have to manage? So there's donors, there's students, there's a lot of things to manage. Just, like, as a college president, how are you, like, dealing with all these issues?
Yeah, as a college president, I deal with all of those constituencies all the time, and I love doing that. It's part of the job. If you don't love it, the job is not for you. So I'll list some constituencies that you didn't list, which are alumni, family members, neighbors, as well as students, staff, faculty. You mentioned donors. Donors are almost always within alums and family members. And I would say for us, the donor equation is not an important equation, though we read a lot about that part of the equation a year ago in New York Times and Wall Street Journal headlines. But what is important to me is that the Haverford family, that whole set of constituencies, feels like Haverford is living up to our values and our mission. And there's disagreement about that. There's disagreement about that from people, and I think that that's how Haverford rolls is that people are able to tell the president when they disagree with what I'm doing, when they agree with what I'm doing, though I hear very little about that, right? But the disagreement comes from all kinds of aspects around. I like to talk of it as a sphere of whatever that topic is. Let's say Israel, Gaza. It comes from all aspects of that sphere, not just two ends of a pole. And so how do I deal with that? I deal with that the way we deal with everything at Haverford: engagement, dialogue, listening, toward learning, and hopefully toward building community. But we all know that we've had struggles between freedom of expression and building community in the tensions that those build up. And so that is still a place where I'm hearing from people who are alums and family members in particular, and certainly some people here on campus as well, that they don't think I've gotten it right. And so we're just engaged in those
conversations. Doesn't seem like any college president in the country's gotten it right yet.
I feel like there's, I mean, I don't think in the public eye you're really going to get anything right. I mean, it's like people are very quick to judge, and obviously you being someone in the highest position of one of the best colleges in the country, we talk about that all the time in the criticism that you get, and just we're like, what can you do?
Well, we should, we can have another conversation about leadership, but that's all part of being a leader. And since you two are really into sports and athletics, I'll tell you a metaphor that one really important alum said to me long ago, a year ago. And this person said, "Wendy, there's no winning. Period. There's just no winning." And I think that's a great way to look. It's not, is it about winning, to your question, Chris? No, it's about engagement. It is about learning. It is not about winning.
I'm envisioning a picture of Wendy with big quotes. There's no winning.
It would have been funny if Charles Curtis asked that question. He's like, all right, next topic.
Speaking of alumni and politics, obviously, Howard Lutnick became the Commerce Secretary just a couple of days ago. Wrote a quick article about that as well. And I was just curious to get your thoughts on him getting into that position. And honestly, just like, it seems like he's become a little bit less involved with the college in recent years, especially since he's become super involved with the Trump campaign. So just curious, like, your thoughts on any of that.
Yeah, his nomination to be Commerce Secretary reflects his leadership and the complexities of what it means for someone like Howard Lutnick to navigate the earth. And you know that Howard has been devoted completely to Haverford College because of the way the college was devoted to him. And that relationship continues without question, just like, as I said before, my relationship with all alums and all family members. Howard is very connected to the college. So I think that it's a false impression to suggest that he's less connected to the college now than in the past, though I can say objectively, when he was chair of the board, certainly he was more connected to the college than by virtue of his position at the college. So that's fair that he's less connected to the college, but I want you to know he's still connected and still has strong sensibilities and opinions.
Nice. Yeah, and it was interesting because I interviewed the chair of political science, Steve McGovern, and also the chair of economics, Geary. Mm-hmm. And they had really different viewpoints on the whole thing, so I was just curious to get your thoughts.
Great.
Awesome. I guess now we can go into the fun questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, so, before I ask a fun question, or a fun game that we'll play, I think something I wanted to ask just in relation to Gen Z, and I feel like when you became president, technically it would have been the senior class, like, I think you would have had complete Gen Z students from the moment you got here. Mm-hmm. Technically, because Gen Z started in like 97, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious what it's like to been to adjust to Gen Z from different generations. Obviously, every generation has its own, identity. So I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on that, and then after that, maybe say one good thing that's unique about Gen Z and one thing that you're like, I don't know about Gen Z.
Since I've been in higher education for a long time, one is adjusting always to whatever generations there are. So that's embedded in your question. So it's been fantastic. I mean, this is a fun question because it's been fantastic. And Haverford students within Gen Z are always the kinds of students that one wants to be with. Highly intellectually curious, highly motivated to make Haverford a better place, highly motivated to build community, highly motivated to have their own agency to build this place in the ways that they want. And that is not a uniform way, but all kinds of different ways. I'd say in terms of the question of, what I would say I love about Gen Z is that sense of empowerment. That sense of I know how to do this. Let's make it happen. And then not so much about Gen Z. Maybe it's the same thing. Like, hello, can we be talking about how we might do this better in collaboration with people who have some sage experience and also learning from you reciprocally.
Right. Well, we just saw a video of a professor who was like, yeah, your generation made up saying like thank you to professors like after class, and then the guy was like, really? Like, we actually did that?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, and let me just get some of these keywords
right
here.
The first fun question.
Yeah.
If you could pick anyone in the world to give a guest lecture at Haverford, who would it be?
Oh, my. Oh, goodness.
And in what department, obviously. But.
All right. I would pick the Dalai Lama and no department. That
yeah,
would be
okay,
the
so it's just
college.
entire school. Everyone
Yes.
gets to, and what, are we going to Marshall Auditorium to?
Oh my goodness
pack into
gracious.
Marshall Auditorium?
We might have to be in the field house.
Yeah,
Really.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So next thing, I saw Obama do this, and that was my inspiration for this, but the Gen Z slang game. And if you know your slang from Gen Z, this is going to be really funny, and I'm going to be a little embarrassed asking this, but okay, so I'm just going to give maybe the word, or I can give the word in context, but so the first word is Riz. Do you know what Riz means?
Nope.
Okay, next question.
Oh no. This is
No,
not,
okay, wait. Let me give the context. Let me give the context. All right. Wow, Chris, you really got some Riz.
comes from a word that
What word does it come from?
charisma.
Oh,
is that what it
okay,
actually?
Cool.
I just thought Riz
Thank you
was
for
like
the
Riz.
education.
Oh, well, yeah, I was educated there too, actually. Okay, so when something is Ohio.
Nope, I don't know it. I know Ohio from a different context.
It just means like when something's like strange or weird, and that's basically it.
Oh my. That won't be happy for people from Ohio, huh?
Yeah, no, to them it's normal, but to us
Do you
it's
know
Ohio.
the meaning of Ohio of only handle it once? Acronym. No, you don't, but there you go.
No, we don't.
That's a new one.
No, it's an old one, actually.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Cap. What does cap mean?
I don't know.
Wendy.
This is
like
a good...
Jackson
Is there
said,
nothing that's...
Haverford is a horrible school.
That's cap. That's cap. That's cap. It just means like you're lying, or that's BS. That's ridiculous.
So you see, students are not using these terms with me, so I am not learning them.
That's 'cause they're
But where
scared.
I
That's
should
ridiculous.
also,
They need to
I
start
should be
using.
more informed and not rely on our students to educate me.
Yeah, you may have to rely on faculty to tell you. Okay. Tea. What is like? All right, so Chris tells me a secret. That's tea. Like, wow, that's tea.
I got some tea.
Other than you just explain it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I did kind of just explain. It's just like when someone tells you some like information that's like
rumors.
Yeah,
rumor.
that's tea.
Okay.
That's the whole purpose of this show, kind of.
The
DC tea.
All right.
Sunday
Okay.
tea.
All right, I'm gonna do this second to last one because this one's a little easier. Is bet.
I do not know.
Bet? Like, all right, Chris.
It's like, you want to go to DC after this?
Bet.
Okay, you bet. Whatever.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
It's over there. Woo!
Oh yeah,
Okay,
my
all right.
goodness.
One
Ouch.
of like 5 or
Ouch.
6.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Last one is bussin'.
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 It sounds good. Positive.
It is positive. All right. I'm like, it's kava.
Not bustin'.
It's bussin'. Yes.
Oh, okay.
You just had it basically.
All right.
Bussin', like bustin' down.
Very good. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
and all right, my last question is kind of, I got the inspiration from my Professor Benston, who was obviously former president of the college as well. great teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Great
just
person.
yeah, great person. I mean, I'm actually intimidated by his intelligence at times. He's one of the coolest guys, and like he knows more than his head can store. So, but I'm curious. Just honestly, his time as president was short, just because I think for reasons of just wanting to be a professor. I know he loves what he does so much, and I'm just curious if there's any similar path for you within biology. Obviously, I've been a biology teacher here, but I'm curious if you want to be president forever, basically.
You know that I have to make room for Ben
Yeah.
to be the 17th president of Haverford College.
Yeah.
But no, I do not want to be president forever. Kim Benston, everything that a president like me builds upon are the shoulders of those who went before us. So
Right.
Kim Benston was a really important restorative president for Haverford College after there had been a lot of presidential turnover prior to his saying, yes, I'll be interim president, and then yes, I'll stay as president, and then thank you very much, I'd like to go back to the faculty. But Kim's 4 years here really set Haverford up for the success that we've had since then, just to say that. And then I will be at Haverford for another set of years. The way it works formally, you may
Right.
know or not know, is that there's a 5-year contract
Yeah.
for every president that's renewable. And then the board of managers decides on when it's time for presidential change to happen. I am happy to be at Haverford for a number of future years, and then looking forward to making way for someone else to light the lights in this office. Actually, when I'm walking Peanut outside and I look at the lights in the office at night,
Right.
they're just dim lights because they're safety lights at night. I'm like, someday that will be someone else burning the candle who is leading Haverford, and I can be really confident in their work. So I'm confident about that future, and I'm really confident about our future together now while I'm president. We have so much going for us, and that has to do with who the community is. I know that you two and others sometimes focus on who the president is and how the president is leading this place. I view my role as empowering the community in order to lead this place through my leadership. I think Haverford is a place that relies on everyone to make Haverford what it is, and that's part of my leadership style too, is to empower lots of people to make their stamp on Haverford and look at how that propels us forward.
Well, earlier you said there was no winning, but I feel like it's safe to say after this conversation and just getting to know you a little bit more that, the renewal of your contract would be a win for Haverford. So, we thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Fitting us in at 9:15 a.m. on a Monday morning.
First
It's not,
thing.
first thing of the week. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been
Yeah.
a total pleasure. I
Yeah.
really love your work, and good luck with it going forward.
Yeah, so awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.
Bye-bye.